It's a bird. It's a plane.
Jason J. Lewis, the voice of Superman on Justice League Action. This is Mark Wade, writer of Superman Birthright, and you're listening to
the All Things Kryptonian podcast, including Superman and Supergirl.
We discuss games, movies, cartoons, TV shows, and comics.
Find us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. Welcome to the Krypton Report. It's time to get back into some Superman and Lois. And that's what I'm saying. Because it's been too long. And I'm about to start rapping. But with me is always Mr. James Cole, the Superman of Red, the Man of Steel, the muscles upon muscles. He's like, yep.
Yeah.
That's me.
What's up?
That's funny.
How's it going, Pat?
Every time we record and it does this countdown thing. It's like 3, 2, 1. I always think about on Wayne's World where they're like in 5, 4, and then they're like doing the head nod.
Don't count.
So
you can still see your mouth moving. Hey guys, don't nod your head.
Good times, good films. So we're going to jump into it, but I was going to point out here, as of this recording, if you go to dailyplanetdc.com, I have an article published on the Daily Planet. It's pretty sweet. Go check that out. Also, I'm very proud of my daughter. We were at this store, like this discount store called Gabe's, and they had Halloween costumes out, and they were like $4. And I was like, a new costume. And Selah got herself a new Supergirl costume. So, proud of my daughter. Solomon had
very cute
the 3 choices he had, real quick.
Very good.
It is. Solomon had Robin from Teen Titans Go, which I can understand why you wouldn't choose that one because it is very anime. Like, it's not just a Robin costume. The other one they had was Han Solo. And I'm like, come on, man. This would be so cool. It's legit Han Solo. What's he pick? Stormtrooper. I'm like, all right, buddy. I'll let you do your thing. So
that's funny.
All right, we're gonna jump into this. I know. Kids.
Right.
So here we go. Are you ready?
That's
Superman and Lois.
When you say it like that,
12,
it's
through the valley of.
Sorry, when you say it like that, I just heard the beginning of the Corn song. Are you ready?
Exactly. That's exactly my thought. So, James, you ready to talk about some Superman and Lois again? Feels like we haven't talked in forever. So we're jumping into episode 12, Through the Valley of Death. Does that sound fun?
Hey! Misty!
Yeah. So, let's. So this episode starts. It pretty much picks up where the last one left off, and the last one leaving off is where Superman basically tells Tal that he will submit to whatever to just protect his family, and Lois called John. Now we see John Irons. A lot of Johns going on here at Metropolis University, where his younger Earth Prime sister is. And, the first big question raised was, if he's going to see his sister of this Earth, where this John Irons has been dead, you know what? Here you go, okay? Ready, James? Undercover military operation faked my death. Recruited to fight aliens. had a issue, was in recovery, some memory damage. Boom, he's brought back to life. Ah! But that's the part that lines up when Lois calls.
Right.
And then we see Tao showing Superman pain. And the way they show like Superman being like shot down with like the red energy, they also show flashbacks of Tao. And part of me wondered if Tao was even Tao. Like if he was a consciousness or not. Just a thought. I know, like, wouldn't that be a Shyamalan twist? Yeah, but that was all told from him. Maybe he doesn't even realize he's a conscious.
Well, I don't know. I mean, they did have the. Wouldn't that be a what?
Just saying, could be a big what?
Right. Yeah, I don't think we're getting that much. But we did get him landing on Earth.
Who knows? But
having
what's
abilities
interesting is the consciousness that they're trying to place inside of Superman. And who might that be, James?
Right.
General Zod.
Well.
It's interesting, isn't it? This is our first post-crisis mention of Zod. So it makes me wonder if Clark has fought Zod before or not.
Zod.
We've not had any
trying to implant him General Zod. Right? How many different ways can we have Zod? You know what I mean? Like Zod is almost immortal with his different forms. He's got his clone bodies. He's got depending on your interpretation, he's got his phantom zone.
I will say that
his
I like
physical
that
body
Zod
in the phantom zone, or
once we are presented
his
with
consciousness
the idea of Zod,
resides in the Eradicator, and
Zod is extinguished. So we don't have to deal with
it's just another
Zod
version
later.
of that from another time in his life.
Overused. I think the thing about Zod was always the idea of just the evil Kryptonian, the evil Superman almost. And we don't have to have Zod to have Zod. Mm-hmm. I mean, Tao is like Zod with a twist. We did Jor-El and Zod as brothers. Now we're giving this new character as Clark's brother. So,
right. Just about anybody they bring up as an evil Kryptonian, basically, it's like, oh, he's just a rip off Zod.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a Zod is just the seminal evil Kryptonian. And you know what? Considering the past and Phantom Zone, there were probably more seminal Kryptonians who've been locked in Phantom Zone for a long time. Besides Zod.
Like a minute.
All the criminals there. So many different criminals that could be used as Superman rogues.
I love my kids, but sometimes they don't. All right, ready? So let's talk a moment about Sam Lane. Now, Sam tries to be slick and find out where the fortress is. He's like, you know that place that he has, Lois? Do you think he could be there? Maybe the location? She's like, no, he's not there.
No,
slick son of a. But man, the DOD just it kills me because this episode is so much like, we have to stop Superman. There's like no mention of we have to stop Edge. It's, it's like now that Superman's been compromised or whatever, they like, well, now we've lost all hope.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm glad that, that's the way that some are acting. Like, Superman's compromised. He's gone. Mm-hmm. He's lost to us. I do like how Lois and the boys, obviously, they want their husband and father back.
Exactly.
But he, I like how she's the only one who's like,
in this episode.
If we use that now, we have nothing against Edge. Nothing against anybody.
The town is blaming Kyle.
Except for 7-7.
I'm just going to kind of ride the Cushings out for a second here.
Just kind of like the whole end.
They ask him not to come back to work. He runs into some of his fellow firefighters at the diner. And they're being blamed, and they vandalized their house. They Lana is rejected by Emily after Lana even told Emily not to pursue the job with Edge. But just because Lana worked for Edge and Kyle was trying to champion Edge for the town, everybody has turned against him.
Yeah. We've said in the past about them giving so much focus to Lana and her family. But now it absolutely makes sense why they had so much focus.
These people know us. We grew up here.
Being close to Edge and stuff.
And Kyle, says, let's start looking for jobs or whatever.
Causes some more problems.
Nearby towns.
And, brings out some shady Two-Face people as well as, people looking for somebody to blame. And the only tangible person they have to blame is Kyle.
I just want to hit on the Cushings real quick. So,
yeah, even to nearby towns.
No, you're. I'm checking my notes here because my notes are written in order. But
it was a good story. It was a good bit for
in this episode
because it gave Lois some other stuff to do.
Yeah, it's also where Lois talks to him.
Or am I just blending both episodes together?
Because she gets, Kyle talks about being taken over and possessed, what that felt like, so that she uses that to try to talk to John Henry and her father.
Because I know this episode for sure is the episode where their house is vandalized. It's also
where
yeah. See, this is this is kind of the problem here where I'm running into right now talking about it is this show is told so well that the story
Lana talks
is like seamless from episode to episode. So I think some of the points from the next episode
Lois talks to
just
Lana
carrying over from
what it was like
the plot bits of this episode.
That distinction, like we talked about, where Lana was open and willing to be taken over.
That we haven't talked about.
So her experience was different than
what
Kyle's was. And it's the information that Kyle gives to Lois that, like I said, helps her, try to get Sam and John on her side about saving Superman. Now, I hope that Superman will show up into town and thank Kyle for helping save his life. So we have just kind of skidding back at the town for treating Kyle the way they are. So John is really set on killing Superman. He's basically like, why else would Superman, signal you to bring me in to help if he knew that there was no other chance but for me to kill him? And I'm like, wow, I feel like we're right back where we left off, John. And John tells a little bit about his story, okay? About the red solar tech he had and how he was trying to use it. And it was during that time is when he was brought to this earth. So it makes me wonder, is this John Irons a product of Crisis or not?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, just we get the shot of him using the red solar bomb, and
exactly. So
and he's flying into it, and Superman just kind of drops off his ship. Don't know if it's because the effect of the solar bomb, see if it worked or anything, but as he's flying into it, he seems to hit a wormhole that brings him to Earth, to this. It's hard to tell with the red solar bomb and the red skies and things from Crisis to know what
That's
affected.
my headcanon.
Maybe he was fighting the moment Crisis came to his Earth and the bomb and Crisis.
Yeah. And they're writing it that way.
Gave him a wormhole, a way to.
About that here in a second.
You know what I mean?
So.
Way to escape and a way to so who do they transport to another
contact?
To the prime Earth.
Argus. And who shows up from Argus?
That's probably
Diggle.
Yeah,
this is another
probably the best way to go about it.
Another Diggle crossover, which
is kind of vague.
I will say I was a little disappointed that Diggle wasn't more active in this episode. Because he shows up, he sees Lois, he recognizes Lois, he talks to Lois, having had a past with Lois. And he's like, oh, this is where you guys moved to. Because, of course, Diggle moved to Metropolis.
John Diggle.
Lila is still running Argus. And then during the conversation, Diggle, basically was lied to as why, what do you call it? While he was there. And he starts arguing with Sam. Then he finds out John's from another Earth, and he's like, "This guy's from another Earth. We got to talk." But he mentions Oliver, and I'm just like, once again, when is this show taking place? Like, why is there no Supergirl reference? Oh, it's post-crisis. It's post-crisis, but it's just, is this show taking place after Supergirl? So that's kind of my working principle of thought is the events of Supergirl happened, and then this show, like,
well, it's got to be.
I just feel like
got to be
because none of the other shows have
right.
Really
it's got to be post-crisis, though. Right. Got the
there's been
Oliver
little hints about the other shows, but anyways,
right.
And then recasting Kate Kane and just throwing that story away and not making any dang sense. And just, I really feel like the writer's room for Batwoman is just a mess. I feel like there's no leadership. Like, there's no direct path.
Well, we would have expected to see it from Batwoman, if not for,
I'm not trying to criticize, I'm just saying,
them making Ryan Wilder instead of just recasting Kate Kane.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It just put a big wedge in the Batwoman stories themselves,
mm-hmm.
but then the overall impact that Batwoman has had and gotten from the rest of the Arrowverse. Like, by doing what they did, they just took away every tangible connection they ever had to the Arrowverse.
You took it too far. Instead of just recasting and continuing the story thread you had, because we all would have adapted with that.
Like I said from the beginning, they should have just recast Kate Kane as Wallace Day in the beginning. I said that back when before they created Ryan Wilder. Oh yeah, they did two seasons in a row of the character of Batwoman learning she has to be Batwoman.
So, and it just
going the freaking Batman Forever.
It also made Alice almost unimportant, and you had a very
except that's who you are, kind of
we'll
thing.
Keep moving on.
And they had to do it 2 years in a row. Did it with B. Rose in season 1, then they had to do it again with Ryan Wilder in season 2. They did the same thing 2 seasons in a row.
I mean, that's basically what they did, right, Mookhite? Yep. So, characters we haven't talked about because I was saving them is John Kent.
Yeah,
is really the unsung hero.
You wonder if they lost it, they were just like, okay, well, since we lost her, how can we make
like
this
his mom
character
and like his
even
dad.
more? How can we make this character even more representative?
I say that because he's the one that talks to his brother Jordan, who's having a breakdown because he couldn't stop Edge. He's like, I gave him everything I had, and I couldn't stop him. And it's John who helps talk with Jordan to get him to start using his hearing. When Clark is able to break out of the evil desert fortress for a moment, he yells for Jordan, and Jordan's able to hear him. And then, skipping ahead, Lois tells John that she's married to Superman, that Superman is Clark Kent. And I love John's like, Superman is Clark Kent? It's like, yep, it worked, and it was awesome, in that scene. And, you can tell John, that's where John first starts getting some conflict. And then John Kent a little bit walks in and talks to John Iron and says, talks about when his van was parked at their house. He watched the video with his daughter. He said, "You seem like a really good dad." And the guy you're about to kill, he's a really good dad too. There's always another way. And I'm like, thinking about this character like John Kent, who has no power yet. He's given his grandpa the speech. You know what I'm saying? I think eventually something, like I said before, I think he's going to get something like speed or something. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Maybe not. It could be a crisis-based story where the idea that the one entity child they had was technically split into two people. So we'll see.
Yeah.
But yeah. And then we have Superman versus what I have as Halo Steel.
Right.
He's proto Steel. I mean, yeah. I mean, it's the idea that they didn't want to make it look too much like Steel, so we would know off the bat. But it gives us somewhere to move the costume to. Like my hopefully.
I mean, pretty much. I mean, that's what this character has been since inception. He's Master Chief.
So we have Steel flying to fight Superman, and it's a good fight. There's tension with just how they're fighting. That John is there, he has the weapon. Lois can hear, and it's a good fight. But what I love is, Sam's like, Superman is compromised. You're authorized to engage. And John Henry, hears Clark basically tell him, do it. And when Clark's telling him to do it, I feel like that's what causes John Henry to kind of snap, because then he gives him the speech about pain and fighting back for his family. And, he takes the mask down so you can see his face. And it's a really good scene, and then, of course, what do you call it? It's awesome just to see that, him get rid of Zod, and that's it. We didn't get an episode of Evil Superman, we didn't get, this drawn out story of him being possessed. And even then, he was never fully possessed. He was always fighting it. And I was very happy about that.
It was, it was pretty cool. I mean, yeah, the amount of damage, especially when he says that, in the past, he said that, this episode, that he said it took him 7 minutes to destroy Metropolis. Like, that's a lot of power. That's giving this Superman a lot of power. So if you try to do a drag out story, it's like you're just making him talk for the sake of talking. So I'm glad they didn't play around with it.
So it's just really awesome to finally see John Henry and Superman work together. We see Edge fly into space and basically do a flare, and he's put in prison, and that's how the episode ends. It ends, though, with a really cool scene of Superman showing up on the farm, and he doesn't even change back to Clark. He just shows up, and he's hugging his family. And then John shows up, and they have a nice conversation. And it was really good. I like seeing them work together. So that was episode 12, In the Valley of Death. What do you think, James?
I mean, I enjoyed the episode. Said didn't waste any time. You fought back against possession time. Super actors, pretty good in this show. have come back to both of them come back to the farm all suited up. It's pretty sweet.
Yeah, yes, it was. It's a good farm.
Yeah.
So
I like how Jordan heard him coming first.
Yes, he did. It's like, it's Dad.
Yep.
So it was cool. I really dug it, and I'm sad when the show wraps. You know, and we have to wait. You know, for the next season. But all right, we got another episode to review coming up soon. So remember, everyone,
look up in the sky.
If you want to help out this show and any other show on Southgate Media Group, and you really don't have the extra money to do so, check this out. Go to southgatemediagroup.com. At the top, there's a link to Amazon. Click that, log into your Amazon, shop and buy like normal, and part of the money that you spend comes back to us to help us with our podcast. Hello, everybody. I just want to let you know that Southgate Media Group has its own Patreon. That's right. For $5 a month, you can get exclusive shows, content, and interviews with the different podcasters of the network. This Week in Geek is a Patreon exclusive only series. So check it out. Go www.patreon.com/Southgate Media Group. We are always adding new content. If you're like me and you love listening to different podcasts about Superman, I have a few that I want you to check out. Some of my favorites are The Last Sons of Krypton. Connor and Ray are always reviewing different books, and it's really nice and refreshing to kind of dig back into older stuff. The Aspiring Kryptonian, Tasman and her team are always finding interesting people to interview. Digging for Kryptonite has become one of my favorite ones to listen to, as Anthony digs into different eras of the character. There's always the Always Hold On to Smallville, which I've guested on before, if you're wanting to step back into that nostalgia realm. So check out all these, and there are many, many more. So check out our Twitter, because we're constantly finding new podcasts that inspire and bring hope to everyone around. The Krypton Report is part of the Southgate Media Group network of podcasts. If you have an interest, check out Southgate Media Group to see if your podcast is there. I bet it is. At the Southgate Media Group website, you can sign up for our newsletter. You'll get info on all the shows, and you can find what you want. You'll also find links to our sponsors, where you can get great products and support the podcast. Also, our book, Pod Life, Podcasting Stories. It's a great book. Check it out. It's nice to hear where people come from and why they do what they do. And remember,
this is Dan Jurgens, and if you want to have a good time, keep listening to the Krypton Report.